Where were you 6 months ago? Could you have predicted what your life would look like this morning when you woke up today? Of course not. That uncertainty is a fact of life for everyone. But if you made a New Year's resolution to quit drinking, and you've actually stuck with it, then you're now at 6 months sober. And this question hits different. It's poignant, it's personal, and it deserves a real answer. I'm Dr. Donald Crow, and I passed that 6-month milestone myself over 27 years ago, about a third of the way through what would become a 40-year medical practice. During that career, I routinely counseled people whose lives were being wasted and, in some cases, shortened by their dependence on alcohol. That they needed to change was obvious to me. That I needed to change was harder for me to grasp. If you're at 6 months, congratulations. The misery that drugs and alcohol were causing is probably behind you, and the consequences have undoubtedly begun to fade. 6 months is a real milestone, and, like all milestones, is most useful when you use it to orient yourself, to look back on how you got here, and forward to where you're going. And that's exactly what I want to do in this video today. Here's something worth understanding. The vast majority who drink alcohol don't need to hear a doctor tell them to quit, because for them, it works. Most people continue to drink because in the final analysis, they derive something real from it, a brief vacation from a stressful, difficult life. In other words, the life we all have. But for some of us, alcohol becomes something else entirely. Taking a drink awakens a compulsion to take another, a compulsion we may resist for a while, but whose grip, when you put our own history under the microscope, only tightens over time. We drink more than we want, more than we intend, and consequences arise in every domain of life. Relationships, self-respect, our ability to stay within the boundaries society sets, our livelihood. For this subset of us, the compulsion can only be avoided one way, by not taking the first drink. Sobriety always begins with that single step. And if you've made it to 6 months, you know this is true. The compulsion has long since faded. But here's what else fades: the glow. The satisfaction of successfully resisting the urge fades faster than most people expect. By 6 months, sobriety still feels good. It feels like an accomplishment. But that intensity has been replaced by a nagging question. Is this all there is? 6 months is an excellent vantage point to answer that question. My first recommendation is to examine how you made it this far. What's worked and what obstacles made it difficult to leverage the benefits of early sobriety. Start with the easiest life domain, your physical health. Discontinuing the practice of poisoning yourself daily pays real dividends. Your weight, blood pressure, pulse, and respiratory rate have all likely improved. Look deeper, and you'll find improvement in almost every body system. Your skin has better color and tone. Your bones are measurably stronger. Your cardiovascular health is objectively better, and you feel it. That brisk walk that used to wind you now is nothing. Your GI system, which once seemed to need constant antacids just to function, now seems to be playing for your team instead of against you. Those morning headaches that made you wonder if you had a brain tumor, they're gone, along with the hangovers you'd mistaken for a morning ritual rather than a warning sign. And sleep, true restorative sleep, has begun to return, which matters more than most people realize. The problem is these benefits tend to blend into the background. They become the wallpaper of daily living instead of the achievement that they actually are. Don't let that happen. Recognize them. A similar assessment of your relationships, your career, your financial situation will likely also reveal objective, tangible improvements as well. They should be inventoried and acknowledged. Now for the obstacles. The first few months of sobriety are typically spent fighting urges rather than understanding them. That's natural, appropriate, and for most people, effective at first. When the thought of a drink arises, it gets recognized as a dangerous threat to your goals, and it triggers a fight or flight response. Practically speaking, that means gritting your teeth, exerting willpower, and leaning on distractions to push the thought into the background. The flight side of the response usually looks like denial, denying the power of these urges or even their existence. But by 6 months, that strategy gets strained. Fighting to stay afloat expends energy, and energy has a finite supply. A shift toward a different response to these urges needs to happen now. There's a second obstacle that most of us face too: continuing to inhabit a world of drinkers, a world that can now feel like it excludes you. Not drinking around people who do is necessary, but it can leave you feeling apart, exposed, like the focus of unwanted attention. The real work ahead is the transition from someone who cannot drink into someone who simply doesn't need to. In the next 6 months sober, we need to double down on the things that have worked. We're creatures of habit. During our drinking days, our habits kept us entrenched in a destructive lifestyle. But after 6 months of sobriety, those habits have shifted, often without us even noticing. Maybe you've developed a morning routine that sets the tone for your day. Maybe your evenings look completely different now. These changes are automatic behaviors, and their real power lies in repetition. They train our instinctual brain that there's a new normal. That deeper part of us signals security when we follow these new habits, and discomfort when we break from them. Identify these new habits. Reinforce them. That's what shifts them from something you have to decide to do to something you are simply doing. In addition to leaning into our good habits, half a year of sobriety will have provided for most of us the clarity to begin to replace the why that drove our drinking. At 6 months, most people can actually examine an urge to drink instead of just suppressing it. To honestly ask, what do I really want here? I remember hitting 6 months and going to a neighborhood gathering. Friends, family, people who'd supported me through it all. I wasn't worried. These people were in my corner. But within minutes of arriving, the idea of a drink erupted in my brain, and it grew instead of fading. I didn't drink that night. I did something more useful. I examined what I actually thought that drink would do for me in that moment. And I realized something. Being around all these people terrified me, despite the fact that not one of them posed any threat. That was my first inkling of a fundamental truth about myself that I'd kept hidden. People frightened me. In that moment, I didn't really want to drink. I simply wanted to escape that fear. That escape would really only come through deeper introspection, not intoxication. Identifying the problem didn't make the fear disappear, but it diminished its power. Through decades of watching people relapse midway through their first year, I've come to believe that nearly all of them misunderstood why they picked up the drink that caused them to relapse in the first place, because they never examined what they actually believed alcohol was doing for them. 6 months is also a good time to reassess your relationships with those people you've met on your journey thus far. Of course, some people have fallen away since you got sober, and a careful look often reveals that they were never really friends, just drinking buddies. The relationships that remain, the ones built on honest interaction rather than shared intoxication, are the ones worth investing in going forward. This is a good time to remember that such relationships grow in proportion to how much effort you put into them. Work to allow people to get to know who you really are and who you're trying to become. Nearly everyone wrestles with the question, is this all there is, when they reach that 6-month milestone? Without the chaos and illusion of control that alcohol provided, life can feel empty. In my experience, the antidote comes after you've been sober long enough to encounter a few moments of genuine peace. Moments where you've been overtaken by a sense that you're okay, secure, and that everything is happening exactly as it should. These moments are infrequent at first, but by 6 months, it's a rare individual who hasn't been touched by one. Most of us, out of habit, try to reproduce that peace the way we once chased relief through drinking, searching for a quick fix, a secret sauce. And it's disappointing when we learn that that shortcut doesn't exist. But at 6 months, we start to recognize that peace isn't a single choice or activity. It's the byproduct of a way of living. It begins with inhabiting a world no longer distorted by drugs and alcohol, and it becomes the foundation for a life of real effectiveness, real growth, and the accomplishment of ambitions that were only pipe dreams 6 months ago. 6 months sober is an accomplishment, but it's not the end, not even close. There are no true destinations in this journey, only the ongoing work of it, messy, uncertain, frightening, and honestly miraculous. So, if you're 6 months sober or close to it, good for you. My advice, keep going. If you're wrestling with the question whether alcohol has become a destructive force in your life, and you're serious about addressing it, check out my 90-day sobriety survival kit linked in the description below. It will help you navigate those first critical weeks. Also, please subscribe, like, and comment below. I read every one and I will respond. And while you're here, why not check out this video where I talk about how our beliefs shape our behavior around alcohol. I'm Dr. Donald Crow, and I'll see you in the next one.